Mark Hamill is taking to Twitter to tell us all how we should view the world, but Gina Carano is here to remind everyone of what kind of speech the Disney company prefers and which kind of speech the Disney company thinks is abhorrent. Let's talk about the double standard here on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and editorializing with me here today is VashSky. Vash, did you catch how I said that this is editorializing?
I did catch that you said that right there, and it should be noted in this instance because this interaction between Gina and Mark Hamill, very, very interesting. It's going to require a unique perspective.
Yeah. This story by John F. Trent out of That Park Place. Gina Carano blasts Mark Hamill as a talking piece of dung after he mocks President Trump for praying at Republican National Convention. Look at that. That's Gina Carano right there. She's a nice lady. Former The Mandalorian actress Gina Carano blasted Mark Hamill for all the reasons that we have just stated here. Hamill a few days ago took to X where he wrote, "For once, I'm with him, hashtag GOP snooze fest." I'm going to repeat the line here that is often said to us when we watch The Acolyte, even though we don't enjoy it. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Maybe he's just addicted to politics here, but whatever here. You have Donald Trump on camera here with his eyes closed, and there he is, Mark Hamill, sleeping. He's got one of them little microphones right there. Look at that. Carano rebukes Hamill, saying, "It's called praying, Mark. Trump was closing his eyes in prayer. The man was There was an attempt on his life a few days ago, almost losing that life, and another man took that bullet and died protecting his family." Forgive me for paraphrasing parts of this quote. I hope you will all forgive me. We want to stay in the good graces of our YouTube overlords. She continued, "What happened to all the talk about not spreading misinformation and disinformation? Just doesn't count when you do it, huh? Rules for thee, not for me." That's a phrase that we're hearing a lot these days. How's that white Democrat male privilege treating you? Been fired from any jobs recently? Of course, this is a good time to point out that according to That Park Place rumors coming from WDW Pro, it is likely that Mark Hamill, or rather Luke Skywalker, will be in the upcoming Mandalorian film. Next, Carano wrote, "It really makes you wonder what the entrenched federal bureaucracy has on you to have your head so permanently jammed up there where all you've become is their walking, talking piece of dung." She concluded, "Have you enjoyed all your political free speech and analogies without any repercussions over the past 8 years? Don't worry, we have them all saved. Strange you weren't canceled or called out for any of it. I wonder if that time is fast approaching for you. Have a good nap." Vash, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, she makes some profound points here. Throwing it back at Mark Hamill, which Mark Hamill, I don't know, his behavior has been particularly abhorrent as of late. I don't know whether it was him meeting with the 46th president of the United States had some effect on him. I don't know if he's, in the spokesperson position on behalf of that campaign that we don't necessarily know or has been disclosed. I'm not sure what is going on there. We do know, by the way, that Jeffrey Katzenberg, an old Disney executive, actually was attached to the campaign for some period of time. But I'm not sure what's going on with Mark. It was really unfortunate to see, and I am glad that somebody like Gina was courageous enough to actually say something about it, because honestly, at this juncture, with the events of July 13th so fresh in the minds of the American public, probably need to be said.
Right. And I just want to point out for anyone who somehow doesn't have the context on this, Gina Carano was on The Mandalorian, and it was announced that there was a show called Rangers of the New Republic. And the rumors were saying that that was her show, and the lawsuit that she filed against the Disney company eventually, because her contract wasn't renewed, but at the same time, there were verbal indications that she had a show. I think it's going to come to light just how solid that contract was or was not. Anyway, she was fired, and Lucasfilm issued a statement calling her abhorrent or something to that effect. And that's usually not how that goes. Usually someone is just written out. There's also some indications that maybe that was done to The Mandalorian as opposed to the people who actually ran that show. Also, other cast members from The Mandalorian saying similar things, but on what Lucasfilm probably views as the correct political viewpoint. So it became kind of a double standard. Anyways, the lawsuit alleges that it is based on her race, her sex, and her political leanings, that the free speech that she exercised was not okay to the Disney company, while the free speech that everyone else partook in was okay. There's also the fact that obviously it's not the degree of violence that's called for that is the problem here, or the comparisons to World War II issues. Man, you never quite get to say exactly what it is you're talking about on YouTube, did you? So at this point with the Gina Carano lawsuit, we are all waiting to hear whether or not this lawsuit is going to be dismissed by the judge. I would say, based on what we're hearing, the judge seems disinclined to dismiss it, which would be in Disney's favor. So if the judge decides not to dismiss it, the question then becomes, would Disney settle, and how quick would they settle? If they don't settle, then this goes to Discovery, and there's a high potential that whatever is said goes to Discovery, which means that a lot of Disney's information and Lucasfilm back and forth about the firing of Gina Carano would go public. Now, that is something that, as reporters, I would like to see. Obviously, that is also something that I think Disney would definitely not like to happen. And the question becomes, would that settlement, if there was a settlement, how big of an apology would Disney need to make? How big of an admission would they need to make in order to make this right with Miss Carano? And also, I would say to all of the people, and I'll dare I say it, even the shareholders of the Walt Disney Company, because I do think whether or not Cara Dune, the character that Gina Carano played in The Mandalorian, missing from that show, caused this decline, or whether or not it made it clear to all of the news sites that are reporting on the Disney company, whether that moment made it clear that no, Lucasfilm finds you abhorrent if you agree with Gina Carano, or finds you abhorrent if you think that maybe she's bringing up some personal points. This whole issue, I think, reflects much worse on Disney than anyone else here. And the fact that they are allowing Mark Hamill, obviously he's Luke Skywalker. He can get away with a little bit more. He is more essential to Star Wars. Well, unless you're making a sequel trilogy. He's more essential to Star Wars than, say, the character of Cara Dune. But also Mark Hamill's really going pretty far with this at this point. And I think that he is continuing to have employment with Disney for the foreseeable future. There is one more that we need to add. There is, of course, the context of Tenacious D. Obviously, Kyle Gass was at a concert. It was he was offered up a birthday cake with flames on it, and he made a wish. And his wish is that if we end up in this situation again, that whoever it is has better marksmanship. And in light of this, Jack Black ended up canceling the tour and saying that Tenacious D no longer has any creative plans going forward. It seems like coded language for that's it for Tenacious D. That might be the end of the band forever, if not for a good long time. Now, of course, Jack Black also called out by Gina Carano because he played Captain or whatever Bombardier on The Mandalorian season 3. No statement from Disney on that issue themselves. So I'm going to say all of this keeps racking up. Gina Carano's lawyers keep getting more ammunition in their lawsuit. Is there anything you want to add here before we throw this to our commenters, Vash?
Yes, this is why Iger's words that he delivered following the incident felt a little bit hollow, because you have people who, I don't know, I mean, maybe represent the company is a little bit too much, but when they do work under the employ of the Walt Disney Company, when they're contracted for work for their forward-facing products, you do kind of represent the company in kind of a strange way. And so when these representatives of the brand, let's say, go out and make either appalling statements or are in league with others who make appalling statements themselves and so forth, and don't necessarily end their employment or have a public statement in the same fashion that they did with Gina Carano, well, it does beg the question as to how sincere somebody like Bob Iger was when producing that statement. And this is kind of what we've been calling for the company for a long time now. If you have something to say, especially surrounding the release of a show that isn't necessarily beneficial to that show, or can maybe divide the fan base even further, maybe let's not say those things. Maybe there should be some kind of ethics clause or moral clause or something attached to some of these contracts that prevents some of these big name talents above the line from spouting off things that could put that production into trouble.
Now, we want to throw this to our commenters. What do you think about this entire situation? Will there be ramifications for Luke Skywalker or Captain Bombardier? Or is all of Lucasfilm condemnation going specifically towards Gina Carano? There's such a wide collection of comments from Lucasfilm about their actors to choose from here. Of course, that's a little bit of sarcasm. They've only done it one time. That being said, like this video if you found it helpful in any way, and stay tuned to That Park Place, because we will be covering the Gina Carano trial as closely as anyone can possibly do that, perhaps with some additional sources that you won't find anywhere else. Stay tuned to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.